Okay, with this one here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of my stages or rocket builds that I've done and do another delivery to my space station. Hopefully all goes well. So I'm going to click on the little hamburger on the top there. Let's go back to main here, play. I'm going to go build a new rocket. And in this one, I'm going to say build new. Click right up here. And from here, I'm going to say load a blueprint. And I've got, like I say, a lot of them that I've done. So I've got satellites, I've got moon rovers, I've got probes. I've landed on Jupiter, landed on all the moons around Jupiter and that, but these are space station ones I want to do. So I have a large space station component. I've got space station capsules where I can bring up some ships to go up there, and then solar arrays and that sort of thing. I've got a lot of solar arrays on it already. So I think what I'm going to do here is take a look at this one, just see if that's the one I want. So what this one has is it has a long central component here with a module, and here's the probe, right? So it's got a brain. There's a brain here and a brain here. So this has two solar sail arrangements, and then a long piece that with on each location here and down in here there is docking ports. Okay, and then this whole thing is covered with a fairing that I can release at any time that I need to as we're going along. So let's look at this and let's do some staging on this, because I didn't do staging originally. So I'm going to go right here, click on this for staging, say add, fire these 3 rockets. That'll get me off the ground. Okay, now once it's up there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another stage and say separate these. Now these rockets are going to run out at the same time. This one, this one, and this one, because they're all really the same size. So at this next point, I'm going to disconnect this one, fire this stage. And that's basically going to allow me to push this into orbit. So once we've got it into orbit, and while I'm basically at this same stage here, is, in fact, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say do this one, and see if I can tell it to separate the fairing here. I don't know how to tell it the fairing. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that. Let's try that. So this guy, and the fairing. Nope. This guy. Okay, let's try that. So we're going to go this one, and fairing. Okay, we'll try that, see if it works. I don't know if it will or not. And then we'll go from there. So let's launch it. It says you have no parachute and you have no heat shield. That's true, because I'm not coming back down with any of this stuff. So I'm just going to say, yep, launch. So take the fuel up to full, hit down in here to tell it to do stage 1, which is turning on the engines, and then I'm going to fire. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go map temporarily and take a look at where my station is. So my station is floating up at 50 kilometers. You can see that's all the pieces of it. And there's my space station. So where I'm going to put this new piece is probably right at the end of maybe either this arm and have it come out this way. I think that's what I'll do. I'll start building it so that it's going this way for the next batch. But you can see with this station that I have a number of capsules. 1, 2 capsules there. I got a capsule there. I got some ports where I can put capsules there. So I got 3 groups of people that are up there working in there right now, so I really don't want to crash into this thing and take it all apart. Now, I've done a number of... I've built this in space in pieces, right? So I've done this a number of times, but hopefully I don't wipe everything out as I try doing this step. So let's take a look at where that station is. So it's quite a ways around on the other side of the planet. So I'm just going to give it a few seconds to loop over, just so it's coming up somewhere about the same point of where I'm going to launch. So that way when I launch and I angle over, it's starting to come around, so I'm not spending all day trying to get there. Okay, let's launch. Now I know that these thrusters have just enough ability to get up there, and so they're as efficient as possible. I'm not going up with something with super power to it. It's same approach as all my other liftoffs. When I get to 1 kilometer, I start angling over to 10. When it gets a little bit higher, I'll angle over to 20. There we go. If we take a look at the map, you can see that's the station coming up there. Angle to 30. Now 5 kilometers up. I'm looking at my phone down here in case you're wondering why I'm looking downwards. Okay. The big sort of thing with this one is I don't want to go higher than the station itself. It's at 50 kilometers. I know that's where it was sitting, so that's the goal, is to try to get up to about there. We're starting to warm up. That's because of the fact that we're still low enough in the atmosphere, and we're going at 750 meters per second, so it'll cool off. We're not anywhere near a warning level for it. Okay, so we're getting up there. We're at 33 kilometers. Okay, out of fuel. Switch, stage, stage. Hey, it worked. Okay. Okay, so that's good. So you can see now, basically that's what we're sitting with. We're now into space. So the big thing now is to get enough speed going so we can get into orbit. That's why we want to drop that fairing fast, because it plus those other rockets are just extra mass. And we're looking at getting some speed. You can see they're all falling off there. Okay. So again, not worried about the height, I'm just worried about the speed at this point. Here it comes. Again, just worried about speed. Because we're getting closer and closer to the maximum height, which means we're going to start coming back down again if we don't get enough speed. And I think, if I remember right, with the thrust ratio that I've got on this one, is it gets pretty close to that if it doesn't already start to come back down. That's why I wanted to get up to at least the 40s before. Make sure we're getting no height, just speed. We're starting to come around the edges of the planet, so we will be fine. Now approaching the other station that's up there is a bit of a dance. You can see we're starting to come down a little bit, so I'm just going to point my nose up just a little bit. We're starting to get to right to the edge there. There we go. We're starting to come up on the other side. I want to get up to around 50, right? So I'm just going to let this loop, and we're at 48, 49, 49.9. It's going to let myself loop around to the other side. So if I'm at the same-ish speed to maintain this orbit as my satellites, and I'm at 49.9, I'm relatively going faster than my satellite, or my space station. If I go to 50 or 51, then I'm relatively going slower, and it can catch up to me, which is what we're going to want to have it do. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to pick up the speed until the height on the other side gets up close to 50, and it does dance away from me a few times as you're doing this, because we're doing little nudges now. I want to make sure I do not have the RCS, the thrusters, turned on, because these little motions can really throw. There we go, 48, or 49.8, 49.9. 50 is the highest on the other side now, so let's go to 50.1. Oops, these are little tiny thrusts. They're at 50.1. There we go. Let's go around to that side. And again, because I'm further out now than what the space station is, I will eventually, or it will eventually catch up to me. Okay. So let's pick up the other side. 50.2, 50.1. Close enough. So I'm going to go around. So I am now going at 131 approximately. No, just I'm going to do this minor adjustment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down a little bit just to bring that 51.2 to 51. Don't need to worry too much about it, but that's the plan. And I just want to show you something. If I go, and I could just turn on these thrusters now. Okay, so if I just look at the thrusters, if I push down, it shoots that way. If I push up, it shoots that way. So I want to push up. So map, just let it come around. Actually, we're both at 51 because of just that little bit of playing with the RCS thrusters that I did. You see how every time I touch it, it changes the relative position. It gets really picky. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this one, but I want to fill up each one of these sections first to make sure they're all full. And it looks like they are. Every time you have a docking port, you have to check that next one too, though. I'm going to disconnect here. I'm going to tell it on this one, the one I'm disconnecting there, I'm going to tell that to clear debris. So switch to, which one are we looking at here? That's just a probe I've got going around. There's the ones. So it'd be, this is my current rocket. Yeah, there's the one we have. So that's the one that we just put up here. Now I don't want to adjust anything until we start getting closer. Because if I just start turning it or something, it changes the orbit. So let's just go back to here. The space station is this one. This is my one I just launched. This one is at 51.1. The space station, if I switch to, is at 50 on both ends. And it's going at 132.2 meters per second. This rocket is going at 132.1 meters per second. So a little bit slower. So here's what we're going to do. Just speed up time. And we're just going to let them catch up. So I'll go a couple of times around just to see how it's doing. Yeah. So make sure we're still looking at that guy. Yeah. So I can see it's gone to 150 and 151 as it's sort of rounded up, but it's happening. The one behind is catching up. Okay. Oh, did I let it pass? Nope, that's just that guy. Okay. And this one, that capsule was one of those rockets, but he had a mishap. Okay, that's that guy. And in behind him is that one. So it's still a little ways back. So let's just keep going. I just want to make sure we didn't shoot past him. Okay, so there's that one. There's the one behind. At some point I should send a probe to go and grab that capsule, bring it back. Or push it out of orbit or something. It's catching up. You can see them there, so they're catching up. Now, there are some people that do this where they will click on this one and they'll say navigate to, and then they get... I'm more doing it just a pure sort of state. I'm taking this guy and I'm going to get it there. You can see they're getting close. The concept that I'm doing here is the same thing that happens when SpaceX starts coming up to the space station and they drop a little bit below and then they come up and go in. Or they go a little bit above. There we go, they're catching up. They're not quite close enough yet. Okay, so let's try this. If I zoom out, what I'm trying to do is see if I can see the space station, and not quite yet. So let's go a little bit more around. They're starting to overlap each other. I'm not seeing them yet. Not yet. So you can see it's sort of a careful approach with it. Yeah, it's getting almost there. Okay, let's take a peek. So you can see there's the Earth. So I'm not seeing it yet. How close are we? Oh, it's got a little bit yet to go. I'm just trying to be careful so I don't run into it. A little bit more. Okay, that's getting pretty close. There it is. You see it in the upper part there? what I was doing was I was doing the orbiting, but just, there we go, slow it right down. So now I can start using the thrusters. So again, if we take a look, if I hit up, it's pushing it in the direction that I want to go, so that's good. And what it will do is it'll appear to move the station, not my rocket. And that's because it's staying, the camera is staying fixed on the part I'm taking up there, while the station is what's appearing to move. And every time you get closer, zoom in so that you can see it. You don't want to go too fast because that's an accident waiting to happen. In fact, you know what? I'm going to start turning this to where I was saying I want to position it to attach. So if I hit to the left, yeah, it's going to go that way. So I'm hitting this one to move left, this is to turn it, this gets closer, this gets farther, this goes to the right. So this turning it one I need to do here a little bit. So I tapped a couple of times to get closer to it. Need to tap a couple of times to start slowing down on the approach. So my goal is to connect up to this port right here. A little bit of a bump, but we're going plenty slow enough, so we're good. And connect. So took a picture of it just to, and I can breathe again. So you can see this module that I've done here is just big enough so then I can open up these solar cells on each side, because we always want more electricity. And I can take these edge ones off if I want to and drive them around, but I think I'm going to leave them just where they are. I think they're fine. Because each of these guys on the edge here have their own probe, their own fuel, or their own probe, which is the brain, the computer, right? It's got docking ports on each end, and we're currently docked on that one right there. So now I can send up another one. I've got ones that have just satellites, just these sections here. So now I can add a bunch onto here, add a bunch onto here, and it's exactly the same thing. So I've just added to the size of my space station without causing any major accidents. So another 30-minute one there, just to show you that. Now, if I go back and go back to the space station, okay, if I go build new rocket, like I say, I can continue with that one, or I can just say, and this is where I can load another blueprint that has solar arrays, which is this one, and it's just a whole bunch of those guys. Okay, or I can load one that says large components, just to show you what this one is. So that's got that one I just finished doing. Load a blueprint. Well, there's the capsule one. So that's got a capsule on the bottom here, right here. It's got the docking bays for the capsules, and then another capsule on the other end. And like I say, once they get into space, they can all disconnect and fly on their own. They all have their own thrusters. They all have everything that they need. This is 2 different legs of the space station. So it's got basically 1 satellite, and so it's a slightly smaller piece, I guess. I built this all up over time. Okay, just 1 little piece. But then I figured that's so inefficient because I was sending just 1 up at a time. So I figured, nah, just build them big. Okay, so there you go. There's about 30 minutes basically getting into space. I'm just going to cancel that. Okay, back out to here. Okay, so there you go.